Nigeria, where politics is performance art and democracy often feels like a dress rehearsal for a tragedy that never ends. 2027 is knocking, but before we even get to the ballot box, the stage is already bloody with scandal, betrayal, backdoor dealings, and political samba. You would think our politicians are auditioning for Netflix, not public office. So let's begin with the latest plot twist in Nigeria's tragic-comic political theater. The Social Democratic Party, the SDP. Yes, the one that used to make noises about principles and people-centered governance is now in the news for, of course, wait for it, misappropriation of funds. Yes, the party that once boasted of being the ideological alternative is now the subject of allegations so embarrassing. Are you not embarrassed? Even the ruling party might blush. They might. Now, millions of naira allegedly moved like river spirits, unaudited, unaccounted for, and unrepented. Can you imagine? The leadership is being accused of treating the party's purse like a private wallet, and suddenly social seems to stand more for social club for the politically ambitious than for social justice. But then, don't worry, Nigerians, they are investigating, in quotation there, because in Nigeria, investigation is where scandals go to die. It's where truth gets wrapped in red tape, buried under files, and locked behind a desk labeled pending. Meanwhile, over at the APC, the so-called All Progressives Congress, our ruling party, which is increasingly sounding like all problems continued, we witnessed a forced smiling send-off, allegedly, of Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, who finally resigned as national chairman under the weight of, well, political reality, or better yet, immediate health and family concerns. He had to step back from his role. Well, that's what they say. He was now replaced by Ali Bakar Daluri, who is a loyalist from Borno State in what some are calling a stabilizing move. But if by stabilizing they mean preparing or papering over the cracks in a building that's already shaking at the foundation, then, as Tom Cruise will say, mission accomplished. But make no mistake, this wasn't just about Ganduje's unending string of corruption allegations or public image issues. This is about zoning, about grievances that's already festering among party blocs who feel shortchanged, ignored, or politically neutered. Now, the APC is now walking a very tightrope, and we have to make this clear, and is walking a tightrope between holding power and holding itself together. And as we say in Nigeria, body no be firewood, and APC might just be starting to sweat. And then, of course, our good old oil-rich River State and its reconciliation drama, the soap opera between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his political godfather turned opponent, Nyesom Wike, the minister of the FCT. They just added a new episode to their drama, and this time it's titled, We Have Made Peace episode. After months of tension, legislative workouts, loyalist puppet theater, and a very public war of egos, both men were seen together smiling like old friends at a family meeting, probably because this family in question is Nigeria's highest office. So credit to President Bola Tinubu. On your mandate we shall start, sir, because if nothing else, he knows how to pull the puppets back onto the same stage. But the question is, at what cost, my friends? Because let's be clear, this isn't peace for the people. I said it. Thank you. It's peace for the political elites, the kind of peace where egos are massaged, positions are secured, and the public is told to clap while their future is being mortgaged. What a play. Well, what does this mean for the people of River State, you ask? Well, I have an answer, or better yet, a theory. It means the real issues: poverty, infrastructure, decay, flooding, unemployment, just one of many. They're all again going to be sidelined, as always, for political power games. And it means River citizens and are spectators in this, or better yet, they are the audience to this in their own democracy, watching the powerful play chess with their livelihoods, as always. And the bigger question here is, what does it mean for Nigerian democracy? It means we still haven't gotten serious. It means integrity remains optional, accountability is cosmetic as usual, and public trust is a currency no one bothers to earn anymore when there's national cake. Just think about it. It means that ahead of 2027, we are not just electing new leaders, we are recycling the old scenes, rebranding these same failures, and repackaging the same empty promises. And so we ask, how can we demand transparency from government where political parties themselves are cauldrons of corruption? How can we talk about progress when zoning, ego, and ethnic alliances detect our leadership more than competence? How can we celebrate reconciliation in Rivers when it was the people who suffered during the feud and now they're expected to simply move on? How delightful to be gaslit. Dear Nigerians, or dear Nigeria, if we keep doing democracy like this, transactional, tactical, and treacherous, we will keep getting the leaders we deserve, and not the leaders we desperately need. So what's my charge to you? As 2027 approaches, we the people must decide, are we ready to break the cycle, or shall we once again clap for the show as audiences, as puppets, cry when the lights go out, and pretend it was a performance worth watching? Take a bow, my friends. So as the curtain is rising, the actors are rehearsing, but the stage, as always, belongs to us. So let's not give it away again, shall we? This morning, as always, I am not alone. The incomparable Mazino Appeal joins me live on Breakfast Extra for a Sunday edition.
The curtain's open.
There we go. Take a bow, my friend.
What a theater you've just painted of
Nigeria. I do my best,
A very interesting one there, especially with the Mission Impossible regarding SDP. And not just that, the Sim Fubara Wike instance. Trust me, you're talking about being gaslit. I don't think you've seen anything yet, Judith, because if you hear what Fubara is saying, there's more to come this week. Because he says, we have to make big sacrifices for peace. What are these sacrifices?
Oh,
it's going to blow your mind when it comes. And I can't wait. I'm here for this, actually.
Look, anyway, thank God we're having the discussion on the show today. I'm very intrigued, but also I'm surprised that he had to make those big sacrifices as well. What would push him to this? Because you fought all the way to the end. Why not stick to it? But again, who knows, you know? Anyway, as always, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. Curtain fall.
Well, once again, it's my turn. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra, your essential weekend companion, bringing you the biggest story shaping Nigeria and beyond, and especially across River State, or rather River State. We'll come to that. Now, here's what's coming up on the show today. We begin in Kaduna State, where a peace deal between the government and notorious bandits is entering a very critical phase. Our exclusive report reveals how former warlords are warning the government, keep your promises or the violence resumes. I've never seen this before. It's supposed to be the other way around. We speak with our reporter, Emmanuel Bagudu, who was on the ground, and he gives us a perspective from Luka Beniat of the Middle Belt Forum. Then we head to River State, where political tension appears to be easing. Governor Sim Fubara and Speaker Martin Zamawale are finally sitting down after months of bitter feuding. Could this be the beginning of peace, I wonder, or just temporary political handshake? We'll ask Dr. Promise Ogele. Now, also on the program, sweeping tax reforms in Nigeria, President Tinubu has signed a raft of new laws aimed at fixing the country's shaky revenue base. But what does this mean for small businesses, digital entrepreneurs, and everyday Nigerians like you and I? Well, economist Tini Ikidi joins us with his expert analysis. And then to Katsina State, where what was meant to be a center for reformation has become a place of horror. We bring you the chilling investigation by our Rukayat Jibia, exposing abuse and torture in a state-run youth reformatory. The scars, physical and emotional, are real, and so are the questions it raises. And then in party politics, there's a major shakeup at the helm of the APC. Didn't you hear since last Thursday, or was it Friday? Ganduje is out, and Ali Bukar Daluri is in as acting national chairman. We speak with Bala Ibrahim, the APC's director of publicity, on what this means for the party and the road ahead. And then we turn our focus to Kenya, where anger over a controversial financial bill has exploded into deadly unrest, with 16 dead and over 400 injured. We speak to Emmanuel Tu of Citizen TV and human rights advocate Mwanase Ahmed about the causes, the consequences, and the calls for justice. Well, it's going to be a packed show today. You're welcome. Full of insight, investigation, and impact. And Judith, I don't know if to continue with our story there about the River State instance, because I think that that's the biggest thing to look out for come this week. We are going to be regaled. They're going to give us a show come this week. I'm very curious to find out what exactly is inside that chest of treasures that Simfu Bar is going to open up, so we can see the sacrifices that we're going to make for peace.
Yeah, but I also think that he might not see anything, right? There's a... Sure, hopefully this comes out of my brain correctly, so that no one...
I will help you along the way.
Yeah, so I don't get misinterpreted whenever this is posted online. But here's the deal, right? Given how he held fort for 2 years, right, and he was not relinquishing in some sense. I don't want to say what it is, but you can tell that he wasn't yielding or bending to the powers that be, or, you know, sort of coming to the will of his godfather, and now having to have the presidency mediate that after a suspension, and that they've showed him the amount of power that they can wield if he doesn't play ball with the minister, the FCT minister, who is his godfather. I don't think that he is ever going to reveal the full content of that box. He might reveal, but not the full extent. And even if he does reveal it, I think that he's going to play ball the best way that he can, because what happened 3 months ago was a political shaming. I don't want to use the word. I don't want to use. I don't want to use adjective.
I think that's just act. That's just act.
At best.
No, that's act. And I agree with you. We're on the same page here. I'll be a bit more critical. I'll use body language. If you've seen the reels that we've been playing here on News Central from that evening of reconciliation, where Wike spoke and he spoke, I could see a sense of being subdued.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So exactly. So that's why I'm saying I do agree with you when you say that we will never hear the extent of whatever was discussed there. Now, there are pressures, and you can see that these pressures, you can see that he's coming up. I don't want to say the loser, but you can see that he's coming up, a person who has been put in his place. Now, there also is that critical, you have to consider, that critical consideration of self-preservation.
Yeah. And
so whether you like it or not, he's going to also have to bend to that as well. If he's going to continue in his political career, that might be one of the big conditions that one of the big factors that he will have to consider. Now, which one will take precedence? Is it for the people or for his self-preservation? That's the quagmire in which he finds himself right now.
And I have to just state two things here. The very first one is that the fact that Wike's power is not ending anytime soon. From what we know, if the president...
Oh, you had dinner with him? That's nice. You know this.
You know, I mean, from what we've seen, right, one thing is clear. If the presidency decides to take up that ticket and run for office, because they've said it very clearly, like he's not vocally stated that he's going to run for 2027, but of course we know that it will happen when he mentions it. So one thing is certain. He has 6 years in power. And that means Wike has 6 years close to federal might.
Certainty with which you speak, though, Judith, 6 years. We're not done with 2027 yet.
But we already know from what it's looking like.
I don't.
So 2 years, right?
Yes, I'll keep it still.
And it's certainty, and it's somewhat of an affirmation that it may just be that. I mean, look at the Jagna, look at the mass defections that we're seeing. So most likely, and look at how he's playing the PDP. So that means that he might still be in office for another 4 years.
Can I jump in there and say
from 2027. So what I'm saying is, right, again, this is all my own views. This is not journalism. I just need to be clear. Hence why I put out this caveat at the beginning. So just to say that, and that what that means is that for the next 6 years, or for the next 2 years until the end of Fubara's term, he is going to be in that box that you just rightfully put. He's going to be subdued. But also, in the next 4 years, he will be subdued. With that being said, the entirety of these politicians, the entirety of our politicians, they are at best jobbers. They are not, they've never done it for the sake of the people. They're all jobbers. And so I fear that this is not about the people. This is about self-preservation. and that your question about whether it is the people or self-preservation, it is still going to be self-preservation. So he will play ball, he will be in the box, he would, play until when it's time.
So I do get what you're saying. I practically, possibly agree with you 80%. I'm going to ask this question: why is there so much interest from the president, considering the difference in party?
Right.
Now, his interest in the Fubara Wike instance is, by all intent and purposes, here suspect, if you ask me. And what I'm not saying is that in the future, maybe not in River State, there are defections waiting down the line.
But there are defections.
And the defections are going to stun you.
No, but
is the point. I didn't say who. I didn't say who. I just said that it's going to stun you.
Yeah, because the State House already had that mass defection that we saw earlier in the year. But most importantly, Matthew, you're really distracting. But most importantly is the fact that the parties, this is not a party issue. This is the Commonwealth of Nigeria issue. Rivers is an oil-rich state. The president needs to meet his quota in terms of oils, right? Crude oil. And that means it's going to supplement the budget that we need to fuel MDAs and all of the things that he needs done. So if there's any squabble or any sort of qualms that's going on in that state, he is going to mediate as soon as he can, because that is the purse of Nigeria.
I get you.
So
many
this
ways
is
to
not
look
a
at it,
party
actually.
thing.
This
is money.
Partly so, partly wallet.
Partly wallet. Because again, which makes perfect sense. Because if it becomes, if it flies the color of APC, even better for the APC. Yeah.
That's
for now, it's the purse.
At least anybody in River State is defecting.
They already have now.
I'm still just giving you the facts and giving you predictions, but I'm not being definite. But it's just my expert thought. But what do we got today for the show?
Let's get started, shall we, with our big report, shall we? And this time it's peace or a ticking time bomb. And we're talking about terrorism as in a twist that raises both hope and eyebrows. Tourist or notorious band. You see what I mean by that distraction? So notorious bandits leader Walik Jambros and other armed groups operating in Kaduna's troubled Benin, Gwari, and Chikun local government areas say they have dropped their weapons, at least for now. It comes 6 months after a peace pact was signed between them and the Kaduna state government. And while the guns are silent for now, a clear warning has been issued: if the state reneges on its promises, they will too. So News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu was on the ground in Kaduna for an investigative tour. He spoke to repentant fighters and community members, and here's his report from earlier this week. Take a look.
Wakilin Jambros, a notorious bandit currently involved in the ongoing peace deal, recounted his days as a terrorist to News Central Television. Jambros and his cohorts say they were responsible for several attacks that sent many financial institutions relocating from Kaduna, Niger, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Katsina State to safer areas of operations. Our investigation into the impact of the peace treaty between the Kaduna state government and the terrorists took us through these dangerous paths, bandits' enclaves, and other areas where thousands of commuters and residents were killed and displaced. This is Labi village, where terrorists forcefully relocated residents into the forest for informing security operatives about their activities on the highways. Other villages like Sabon Odawa have its inhabitants still unable to return despite the peace deal between the state government and the bandits signed over 5 months ago. The leadership of the Mieta Allah Cattle Breeders Association gave an explanation on the current situation.
To da in an gaba fillatani a mota sauke shi ake, ko mace ko namiji za a yi ta challenging ɗinka a kai ka a rufe a an shi maƙudai kuɗi hannunka har ma a kashe ka bayan ma an shi kuɗi hannunka a baya kenan, amma yanzu babu wannan.
Yanzu dai waccan hanyar da aka ƙi wadda dama mu muka ga ita ta cancanta a bita, to kuma yanzu ga ta gwamnati ya gane ita ce alheri kuma ta nema ta neme mu kuma muka nemi mutanen nan aka yi zama da su.
Residents who confirmed the peace deal say that the terrorists have laid down their arms for now and are now being reintegrated back to society.
To a yanzu za ka yi tafiya kamar na mil 5 mil 6 ka haɗe da su ku gaisa lami lafiya alhamdulillah.
Akwai ɗaya wanda bai wuce kaman wata 3 da suka wuce ba yayi aure a garin nan yana garin nan haka yanzu zaune.
To confirm this, new central crew sought to meet with the repentant terrorists, but of course, with the help of Hambali Muhammad, the Sarkin Zangan Birnin Gwari, the leader of the cattle market.
Amma yanzu alhamdulillah ga munan da su cikin gasuri ranar da ba kasuwa ba ma su shigo kowa ya hudu da kuma alhamdulillah an samu canji a garin.
Wakilin Jambros is the assistant of Yellow Jambros, one of the most feared and dreaded bandits the Nigerian military claimed to have surrendered in 2024. The Jambros have over 1,000 terrorists under them, but are now in talks with government to end the bloodshed.
Inda so ya zama samu, amma ka san shi komai daga Ubangiji ne. Sai Ubangiji ya jarabce mu, in Allah ya sa muna da rabon cinye jarabawa sai mu cinye. Saboda ba abin da ke dorewa. Tunda Allah ya ce fa inna ma'al usri yusra, inna ma'al usri yusra. Ba abin da ya gagari Allah. Ai dama barin Allah mukai. Yanzu kuma da aka dawo fa, ba a samu sauki ba. To ka gani da in an ce ka zo inda za ka gani za ka zo? Ni zan zo inda zan ganka? Kaga in ka gani na zama abinci, in na ganka ka zama abinci.
While stakeholders have continued to criticize the amnesty given to these terrorists, the government claims it is a deal worth doing in the interest of peace.
You know, I remember that time Barrister Mark Jacob asked MB Tuku. They are both lawyers. They grew up together in Kafanja, in Zonkwa. He said, MB, is it my grandfather's land that you are after now?
But the state is now using its own resources, you know, to enter into a kind of a deal with these criminals, to the extent that the state said it's going to use its own money to rehabilitate them. These are people that have coerced communities to cough out hundreds of millions. What are they doing with the money that they took from the people? Is that not enough to settle them?
Mana gayyatan duk waɗanda suke da wadata su zo Birnin Gwari don su zuba jari. Suna ma iya zuwa don su tabbatar da abin haka ne ko ba haka ba su aiko ko su bi hanyoyin da ya kamata. Akwai jami'an tsaro za su iya samun labarai a wurinsu na yadda Birnin Gwari take yanzu, kuma na san kuma shaida ne tun daga shi konzo kuma za ku koma insha Allah lahiya lau ba matsala.
The area actively involved in agriculture and food production is now recovering from the destruction of terrorism and banditry. However, commercial vehicle operators continue to insist that there is an existence of bad element despite the peace deal.
It's been 5 months since the signing of the peace deal between the Kaduna state government and the terrorists operating here in Tikun and Birnin Gwari local government area of the state. It is expected that both sides will keep to their own side of the bargain and allow citizens to go back to their various means of livelihood, which is agriculture. Here in Birnin Gwari local government area of Kaduna state, for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Still a reporting there by Emmanuel Bagudu. Bandits turn peace partners or peace under pressure? Big question. What's clear is that the stakes couldn't be higher for the people of Birnin Gwari and Chikun, and indeed for the future of conflict resolution in Nigeria's troubled regions. Our thanks to Emmanuel for his courageous, and I do mean that courageous reporting, and to Luca Beniat for his insight. Now, we're watching Breakfast Extra. Let's talk to Emmanuel Bagudu, who just brought us that report. Emmanuel, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. As always, you're always ever ready when it's time to be on our big report. Emmanuel, I've got so many questions, and one of my first questions is, did you feel any type of way communicating with these individuals, I don't know what to call them, whether... I don't know if to still maintain calling them as bandits, because I could hear some of the things that he was saying, and even if they sounded jocular or funny, it still sounded threatening to me, especially when he said to you that you look like food to me. So considering that and your personal experience and interaction with these former bandits, what do you think the general view is of the people of Birnin Gwari and also Chikun when they live amongst these people who threatened and killed amongst them?
Wow, this is actually, I will confess, it was a very, very, even though we call it hashtag careless reporting, but it was a very, very, very terrific experience. These are terrains where thousands of people have been killed, thousands of people displaced, and you find yourself in that kind of environment. It calls for a lot of courage. So the general view there is that everybody's looking forward to seeing that the promises being made to these bandits, these terrorists, is being kept, so that people will be allowed to enjoy their livelihood. It's an agrarian society where people farm. It's a very vast land spanning up to hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Very huge forests, arable land. We're talking about a community where an average woman produces 10,000 bags of maize every year. But because of terrorism, she's not able to do that. And this peace pact means a lot to the economy of the state, a lot to the economy of Nigeria. And then these terrorists who are, that you see the body language of Jambros. If you listen to him very well, if you understand outside very well, the gentleman is just trying to say that that peace pact is actually dependent on God. That if God wishes that peace will continue, it's at the purview of God. That's what he's trying to say. But in the body language, they just show that if government did not keep up to their promises, these guys are going back to picking up their arms. So I think it's something that the government must take very serious, very, very serious. Yeah.
Emmanuel, for the sake of our viewers, I just need you to just reel out the details of this peace pact between the Kaduna state government and this terrorist.
Former terrorist.
Okay, yeah. Number one. When I got that, number one, there was a grazing reserve that was given, about 1,000 hectares of land, even though the details were very disparate. The Kaduna state government, Mala Ubasani, made it clear that the terms and conditions for this peace pact were very disparate. But we went undercover and found out that there's a grazing reserve that was reserved for the Fulanis on the Brunengwari, of course, Lagos Expressway, Kaduna Lagos Expressway, on that Brunengwari axis, about 1,000 hectares of land. So that was how we got it. We also told that whoever is used to police officers were invited, soldiers were invited to make sure that anytime a Fulani man is being harassed, anytime a Fulani man is being harassed by community members, they should make sure that that Fulani man gets justice. And then of course Fulani men were actually given, that's what we call lavish, and that's cattle routes. They are given particular cattle routes because the land is very vast, it's big for everybody to enjoy. So they're given new cattle routes were created for these guys to pass through and then graze. And then of course the grazing reserve massively reserved for them. So that is what we got based on the peace pact. Then on the side of the government says it's going to rehabilitate, the government says it's going to grant amnesty. That's why the controversy is amnesty. Forgiving somebody who has killed and maimed and have frustrated people. Let me even give an example. At the palace of the Emir of Brunengwari, there was something that happened that one of the authorities were telling us. A man, a Fulani bandit militia came to a man's house, spearheaded the kidnap of his two wives, allegedly. They were raped and forced the man to pay 9 million naira in that same community. The man paid 9 million naira. So on the day of the peace pact, the man came to the Emir's palace in Brunengwari and met the man and said, Oga, I was the one that actually kidnapped your two wives. And allegedly I raped them. Are you going to forgive me? It was over. It was in public. So the man was like confused. He busted into tears. He was asking for forgiveness. So the issue of amnesty from the side of the government is what is still a controversy right now. They have done a lot of evil things. You've seen 3 communities. They are not yet back. Community that has, and Brunengwari has a very, 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 very large population. That government was established in 1976.
So Emmanuel,
yeah.
That story that you have just...
Issues of amnesty is an issue.
So that story that you have just told kind of like encapsulated everything that I'm asking here in my first question regarding these conditions. It would seem that the government giving vast amounts of land to the herders, giving them long stretches, and also amnesty seems to placate them. But what about the people who they've suffered under the threat of these former terrorists or bandits? What has the government done for the people? There seems to be very little or very limited effort for the people of these communities who have suffered deaths, maiming, property abuse. what are they getting in this arrangement?
Yes, that's where we have to be very, 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 objective. The truth of the matter is that when you look at it, the government has not done anything for the people. Now, let me even start from Mando. That particular line, that particular road starts from Mando up to Niger State. And then, of course, you want to go to south, you go to Lagos. Now, we have the Federal College of Mechanized Agriculture, where bandits kidnap over 100 students. We have Government College Kuriga. Remember, News Central reported that, while young secondary school boys and boys were kidnapped. Then we also have, even a major was kidnapped at NDA. The NDA permanent site, that Nigerian Defense Academy, is on that road too. These guys kidnap a major, force him to pay ransom, a military man. And then all the communities on that particular axis were displaced. So it's a monumental loss. People suffered psychological, some people died. We didn't see any kind of, psychosocial support given to communities. The only thing the government is saying that they are giving to the communities is that they are giving them security to go to their farms, to go back to their livelihood. That's the only thing the government claims is a benefit. But the truth of the matter is that there's nothing so tangible that the government has done to the people who are affected. The people that are enjoying these peace parks are the people that actually initially carry guns. They're the ones enjoying this peace park. You saw them, they are coming to the market and they are interacting with the people you have harassed. And they're laughing and all of that. I mean, it's really, really, really psychological. So there has to be some kind of programs.
Okay.
Reconciliation programs, rehabilitation programs, like psychosocial support that we support these people to make them forget this.
You're very right, Emmanuel.
And they embrace these Fulani guys, yeah.
You're very right, Emmanuel. Now that these things have been put in place, partially, what has been put in place to monitor these peace deals? Are there any mechanisms or people or offices or parastatals that have been put as custodians of this peace? Or are we just leaving it in the hands of these former bandits and the people who were oppressed, who they oppressed specifically?
Yes, the leader of this peace deal, actually, we were told, the person that is actually at the top of this deal, this peace deal is the National Security Advisor, NSA, Rinu Ribadu, together with the governor of the state. Then we have the headquarters of the Nigerian Army Division 1 headquarters, the GOC. The Division 1 headquarters is in Kaduna. So the NSA, the governor of the state, and the GOC Division 1. Now the GOC, you're talking about sustainability of this peace pact. Now we have been told that that the GOC Division 1 has made it a point of duty to visit those communities at least once in a week to track the progress being made by this peace deal. To track the progress, because these guys are likely to go back, because the temptation of somebody that used to receiving hundreds of millions from ransom, you're not asking to just depend on selling chickens to just get 10,000 naira, 5K, 20,000 and all that. It's really difficult. So the GOC Division 1 made it a point of duty to visit these communities every week. In fact, when we were on our way out of that community, we personally saw the convoy of the GOC coming into that community. On our way, we spent 2 days in Brunogari, just trying to we have to wait for this market day, just to see these bandits face to face. There are a lot of words that they say we cannot put on camera, because it's really, really devastating. Yeah. But we hope to produce another part of that story where you see a lot of things that we didn't have time to show. Yeah. So sustainability, the GOC every week he visits that particular community. And then of course the Commissioner of Police, that one is just like a normal routine for him. So the NSA and the governor and then the GOC are the ones who are going to hold accountable if this thing is not sustained. Yeah, thank you.
And I mean, as we're talking about sustainability, like you said, you visited this towns, both towns, and you were there 2 days. And so, aside from sustainability, what's a long-lasting solution? Just from your own personal observation, right? Because whether it's state governments or federal governments, peace deals like this have always been in existence. But clearly, from looking at the bandit leader, that's not a repentant terrorist or armed bandit. That is a person who is opportunistic and a person who is out to exploit and will do anything at any cost to get to what he wants, right? And you rightfully said that it can't just come from collecting 100 million or 100 millions or thousands a month or a week to going to just getting scraps. It's not going to work. So what can be a lasting solution, not just for the government, the state government, but at a federal level?
Well, I interviewed some bandits off camera who prefer to speak off camera. I was trying to compare how much they make while they were kidnappers and how much they are making now while they are just selling livestock. The statistics are very, very different. One of them told me he makes, in a month, he makes at least 10 million. 10 million. I asked him, how many people did you kidnap to make 10 million? He said he cannot remember. He cannot even remember. He can kidnap up to 100. But I said, only 10 million, yes. He said, yes. So it simply means that there are people that are sponsoring them. And I looked and I asked him the kind of guns they use. Where did they get these guns from? He said, they're not going to tell me. But when you look at these guns, this firepower they use is synonymous, either synonymous to that of the military or is even bigger than that. Where did they get that? So they're asking of a lasting solution. Now, the lasting solution, if the NSA, the governor, the GOC, the commissioner of police want to be sincere to us in this peace part, they must get us the sponsors. The sponsors must be arrested because there are sponsors out there. Because a man will kidnap up to 100 people and a man, he ends up getting just 10 million. He receives a ransom of over 200 million in all. And then so the money is going somewhere. So we are not interested in following where some money is going to, but we know that the money is going somewhere. Where is the money going to? Where is the money going to? If you look at that video very well, you notice that banks, we don't want to advertise banks, but we have seen 4 banks that were vandalized. So there is no bank in Mungwari. So people are keeping their monies in their houses. If you are coming to the market, we're talking about a market that has been existing as far as 1976. A local government that has existed as far as 1976. It's a huge local government with huge commercial activities. A very big market. People come from different parts of the country to buy grains. Grains are actually cheaper. A bag of grains currently in Mungwari costs just 40,000 naira. A huge bag of grain, just 40,000 naira. So you can imagine people coming from Abuja, come and get those things. They are very cheap. So you don't have banks. You cannot transfer money into the bank because it's strategic. So all the banks are destroyed. They are vandalized. So the banks have to run away and go into the city center or anywhere safer. So sustainability, lasting solution, there are sponsors. These sponsors must be tracked. And we are interested in knowing who these sponsors are. Because they mobilize these people. Every animal doesn't even know how to handle an AK-47. He doesn't even know about it. So the sponsors have to be tracked. If the government is there, they must tell us who the sponsors are. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bagudu. We appreciate you for coming on. Emmanuel Bagudu, our correspondent, just giving us a bit of insight following bandit leaders in Birni Gwari in Kaduna State who saying that they're warning against parties reneging on a peace deal with the state government. Emmanuel, once again, many thanks. We appreciate you for coming on. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, we'll switch gears from Kaduna to the oil-rich Niger Delta, River State, as a crisis, a sort of peace again, peace still. In the river.
It's all about peace today.
After the break, ladies.
Welcome back again. It's our second slot here for Breakfast Extra. Now, a political tug of war that shook the very foundation of River State may finally be inching closer to truce. Now, after months of relentless power struggles between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the River State House of Assembly, led by Martins Amawale, the two parties appear to be stepping back from the brink. And in the past few days, Governor Fubara declared that no sacrifice is too big for peace. While both he and Amawale reportedly met in private following a fresh truce brokered by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
This week, we saw the governor and his political rivals camp engaging in face-to-face discussions, signaling what could be the start of a true reconciliation or a fragile ceasefire. But what does this really mean for governance in River State? And is this peace or just political pause? And so joining us now to help unpack all of these is Dr. Promise Ogeli. He is a political analyst with deep insight into the South-South political landscape. Dr. Promise, we want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. And let's just start with, what many are now calling a turning point with this latest meeting between Governor Fubara and Amawale's group. What do you make of it? Let's start there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a welcome development. It's all about Rivers people and development. You know, conflict is complex. The conflict in Rivers State is complex. Given the fact that the two major arms of government are contending with each other. So that has brought a showdown in governance in Rivers State before the declaration of emergency rule. So the peace move is a welcome development, and I think Rivers people are happy with that move.
All right, Dr. Ogele. Dr. Ogele, yes, we're with you. So Governor Fubara said that no sacrifice is too big for peace. We're wondering whether this signals that he is prepared for compromise. If he is prepared for compromise, how much of a compromise should the people of Rivers State actually expect? And would this be a kind of compromise that the people of Rivers State would actually also perhaps, what's the word now?
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Judith. What do you think, Dr. Ogele?
Well, the fact is that not everybody is comfortable with alien rule in Rivers State. So if Fubara is had said that no price is too much to pay for peace, it implies that he can do anything for peace, even using his personal rights to ensure that there is peace in Rivers State. It is not easy because as a sitting governor that was suspended, you have to go to another arm of government to discuss how you can come back to office. It's not as easy as people are thinking. So if you look at it, there's this level of ego that goes with governance. But however, they are the same political family. So you can see the role of the external forces in governance in Rivers State. That has helped in brokering peace that we are seeing today.
Okay.
Right.
So, Doctor, we've got graphics here of some of the.
Yes, yeah, we can hear you, Doctor.
There's a bit of a delay, so if you would also factor that in as we converse. Now, we have a list of points just before Governor Fubara's suspension, reasons why he was actually suspended. If you take note, he had a meeting with the president and also the FCT minister, and then another meeting with Martin Zamawale. Now, these are some of those reasons. Refusal to present the Rivers State Appointment Bill 2024 to the Rivers State House of Assembly, which, of course, had the issues of the recognition of the leadership of the legislature. There's also authorized or approving, hang on a second, that went out too fast. But in light of the Supreme Court's ruling that he never presented an appropriation bill to 2024 and still does not have an appropriation law for 2025, hindering or obstructing the Rivers State House of Assembly, which is another arm of government protected by the Constitution. It goes on like so. Regarding these two meetings, one with the president, which we would all assume that brings together him and Wike, then the Martins and Mawale meeting. What should we expect was discussed, especially with Martins and Mawale, because that seems to be the very focal point of the entire issues that Rivers State has come to witness since from before?
The fact is that we must understand that when there is conflict, there must be a third party in the first place. And Supreme Court has taken care of most of these issues by disbanding the governance or the organs of government in Rivers State, the imposition of alien rule in Rivers State, and the presentation of budget to the National Assembly through the president, and solve part of the problems. But I think in this deal, in their peace deal, in the negotiation, they may have tabled all these things. They may have looked at it before arriving at a conclusion. I don't think that there is anything for Fubara to have joined the predecessor in his uncle's burial yesterday, and the entourage was also the speaker. It means that they have resolved some of these issues. They are of the same family. What I'm trying to let you know is that there is no issue in the political space that cannot be resolved. Although there may be reservation value. What I mean reservation value, if the peace deal is anchored on, or how do I put it? It's anchored on negative peace. When I mean negative peace, I mean a situation where absence of crisis, conflict, but there is no harmonious relationship. It means that you may find it difficult to have a sustainable peace in terms of working relationship. But what they do is they just go deal with people based on official basis. And politics has to do with a little bit relationship, harmonious relationship to work it out, especially when it has to do with pro-power.
What about the legal aspect of it as well? Because at the core of this, one of them is the legitimacy of the House, leadership of the House of Assembly. If you can hear me clearly, sir, what about that legal part of it? How can they ascertain the leadership constitutionally, correctly moving forward? A Mawali-led faction or otherwise?
I'm not getting you.
You were talking about the peace deal and the negative effect, whether negatively or positively. One thing is certain: one party would have to relinquish for another, you know, for the sake of peace, and as a solution. But another thing that is at the core of this problem is the legal issue regarding the House, regarding the leadership of the House Assembly, of the State House Assembly.
Yeah, that issue will also be resolved to an extent because.
So I'm asking how? How would it be resolved? Yeah. How can he move forward constitutionally?
Yeah, everything is about the governor. The governor has his own group at the period of the conflict. So I think one of it is his chief of staff, the suspended chief of staff. And that one is Oko Jumbo, who was also working with him. I think when in the negotiation table, some of these things may have been resolved. Then concerning the legal issue, I think they will establish a process of withdrawing some of these matters. But if they are unable to do so, then it means that the peace deal will not be sustainable.
I'm glad you're pointing this out because there were two factions before it, and this really what was the crux of this of conflict that we're seeing. But most importantly is Fubara's godfather, alleged godfather, and that's Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. You're talking about the terms of this peace deal, whether negatively or positively. How will he play in all of this? Is quite the influential figure in this entire matter. With the factions that we saw with the State House of Assembly and Fubara as well. How will he play in this peace deal, and what do you ascertain his role will be moving forward?
Well, if a conflict is managed, the external forces, just like you mentioned, Gora's godfather, is involved in the conflict. It means that having a resolve with him. Well, I think that they must have factored a way forward. It's not all about them, it's about Rivers State. And the state of Rivers State now is, a lot of people are not comfortable with the situations, especially in the aspect of the governance structure that have been suspended. A lot of citizens, Rivers people are not happy with that. So I think the Fubara's predecessor is also aware of that. And having seen them together, I think they will factor a way of dealing with those issues.
Dr. Ogele, I think I'm going to ask the critical question now. And the critical question is this. The president is very partial to the FCT minister, as we have seen from very recent activities. He stepped into also trying to help with the situation we see between the FCT Minister Wike and, of course, the suspended governor Siminalayi Fubara. Now, the Amawale-led group, they are partial to the FCT minister. My question is, should we be surprised? And also noting that the president in his speeches from recently says everyone is welcome into the APC, and he welcomed very celebratory, the governor of Delta State for defecting. Might we see a defection as a means of compromise for peace in Rivers State come the next few weeks? Could it be considered, is my question.
You cannot have peace without compromise. It's always there. In politics, what is paramount is the interests, especially the interests of the state and the interests of the politician. The policymakers cannot politic without compromise. You must always have a common ground to deal with issues. Whatever conditions they're giving to him, for me, I just feel that it's also a politician waiting for him to be called back or to lift, or for them to lift up his suspension. Then thereafter, we can know what will happen. For now, we cannot postulate on any issue until his suspension is lifted. He's a human being. He has his own feelings too. He has his own ego. You know, so we cannot actually predict what will happen until the suspension is lifted.
Let me toe the same line as Mazzino, but also ask it from the other side, right? If one of the conditions of this peace deal, or this compromise in this peace deal, is that he defects to the APC, or the leadership of the River States turn their colors from the PDP to the APC, wouldn't it be too obvious at the APC when this hostile takeover? And wouldn't it be contradictory to the presidency's speech during Democracy Day, or saying that this is not a one-party system, or they're not trying to steer towards a one-party system, and those who are carpet crossing are doing it at their own free will, and saying that APC is the party to be at?
I'm not getting. I don't know. I'm not getting you. Please.
All right.
Yes. Can I hear you again? I don't.
Can you hear me now?
Hello?
All right, it's fine. Mazzino.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I was asking about, I was throwing the same line with Mazzino, but this time asking another way around. If on this deal, or this compromise that Fubara was to make, one of them was to defect, again, this is hypothetical, we don't know for certain, would it not be contradictory to President Tinubu's speech during the Democracy Day, when he said that the mass defections we're seeing to the party is not necessarily a hostile takeover, but because parties or other state governors and other politicians see that APC is the place to be?
Well, politicians say different things and do another thing. In terms of politics, it is what we practice in Africa is more a guided democracy, and more often they wouldn't want to entertain opposition because there is fear to lose grip of power. So the president may have said something or had said something on the democracy at the National Assembly. That does not imply that you will not enjoy if there's one-party system. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that is every leader in Africa craves for that. They don't entertain opposition. They want to remain in power. They want to control everything. So I don't think that what we have said will be different from what other presidents or had in the past in Africa have done.
Dr. Ogeli, I want to say thank you very much for... Yes, we're here. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us. It's very interesting, the dynamics to it and the different perspectives that we can see this from. But one thing is for sure, that it seemed like a very interesting photo opportunity to bring together the warring parties. Thank you very much once again for joining us this morning, and thank you for going through this rigor of bad network and communication. But we do get most of what you've told. Thank you very much, sir. Now, let's take a little time out, bring you the news for this morning, the headlines, and we'll be back with more discussion inside of Breakfast Extra.
You're watching Breakfast Headlines here on News Central Television. I am Judith Atibi. And we'll begin with politics in West Africa, Nigeria, as Governors Forum PGF of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has unanimously welcomed the resignation of the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Ganduje. The governors adopted the resolution during their two-day strategic regional meeting in Benin City on Saturday, hosted by the governor of Edo State, Senator Monday Okpebholo. A statement issued by the Chief Press Secretary to Governor Monday Okpebholo of Edo State, Fred Itua, on Saturday said the PGF reaffirmed its strong belief in a united, just and prosperous Nigeria, committing to work collaboratively to deliver bold reforms, strengthen institutional trust, and accelerate socio-economic development across all geopolitical zones.
PGF acknowledged the resignation of the national chairman of our great party, His Excellency Dr. Abdullahi Omar Ganduje, in tandem with the party's continued evolution. The PGF reaffirmed its unshakable belief in a united, just, and prosperous Nigeria. It's committed to working collaboratively to deliver bold reforms, strengthen institutional trust, and accelerate socio-economic development across all geopolitical zones. The governors resolved to remain faithful stewards of the APC's values, leveraging state-level innovation, intergovernmental collaboration to drive Nigeria's transformation from bottom up. The forum encouraged all Nigerians, home and abroad, to rally behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and the APC as the nation moves towards a more secure, inclusive, and forward-looking future.
In the meantime, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Reconciliation Committee, and let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we'll bring you that news. Stay with us. Welcome back. We'll continue with the breakfast headlines. In the meantime, and this time still on politics, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Reconciliation Committee, and former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki has warned that more defections from the party may still occur, even as efforts continue to reposition the party ahead of the 2027 general elections. Saraki made this known during a televised interview in Abuja. He, however, described the timing of the crisis as an advantage, arguing that it gives the PDP time to recover and rebuild before the election cycle begins in full swing. The Forum of State Chairmen of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, has thrown their weight behind the suspension of the national chairman of the party, Shehu Gamba, and two other national officers. The Forum, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, urged members of the party not to worry about the decision, saying that Gamba has questions to answer, especially relating to approved funds expected to be released to the state's chapters of the party.
Members must remain calm at this period and not to be swayed by media manipulations regarding the suspended chairman and other two. The entire process has followed the party constitution being provided. It is important to know that all action taken have been initiated by the state chapter. Our situation can be summarized by the phrase, monkey they walk, baboon they chop. This forum has repeatedly requested that the national chairman remit the state allocated percentage as outlined in the constitution, but he has consistently ignored this request. No state chapter, as we speak, has received any fund from the money raised. And whenever we inquire about our dues, we encounter threats of removal or suspension.
In the meantime, the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, has declared that there is no sacrifice too big for the peace, stability, and progress of the state. Addressing his supporters in Port Harcourt on Saturday, Governor Fubara reassured them that every step he is taking, including the recent reconciliation with his predecessor and Federal Capital Territory Minister, Nyesom Wike, was done with their collective interest in mind. The governor acknowledged the anxiety and disappointment felt by many of his loyalists following the peace deal, but but insisted that difficult times call for difficult decisions and concessions. And now to security matters. A daring petroleum tanker hijacking syndicate has been dismantled, with 7 suspects arrested by the Lagos State Police in Ejigbo early Saturday morning, June 28th. News Central's Igbalani Omoni has the details.
In the early hours of Saturday, the Lagos State Police Command apprehended 7 individuals suspected of hijacking a petroleum tanker. The breakthrough came soon after the truck driver reported the crime at the Surulere police station.
As you collect the way before the driver have to come down to go and claim the way be from them. The next thing where I go here, because we are inside motor, will be 2 motor boy. I want the second motor boy. Me, I don't date that motor, 30. But that motor boy, na new boy. Na first trip we go follow us be that. The way the Navy can say, okay, all 2 people wait there inside motor, may they come down. The next thing they carry slab give us, drag us inside the car. Small car like this, they drag us inside.
After they hijacked the vehicle, they brought it here, dropped the contents here, then took the tanker to Orile, dropped it off. Then in the early hours of this morning, they came with their own tanker to lift the PMS that they earlier dropped here. So we caught them right in the act. We've arrested 7 suspects. Investigation is progressing.
The stolen product, approximately 45,000 litres, was traced to the tank on site. Within 12 hours of the complaint, the suspects were cornered at the abandoned station in possession of pumping machinery and firearms, suggesting organized operations.
Our preliminary investigation so far shows that this is a filling station that is not in use. So we are continuing with our investigation. Do not forget that this happened just this morning. As investigation progresses, we will update Lagosians accordingly. So we also want to establish if the owner of the filling station is in on this, if he actually gave it out for such criminal activities. So when we discover that, we will let you know. For now, it appears to be an abandoned station that is being used in the middle of the night before daybreak by criminal elements.
So what happened to the content you have discovered?
Oh, for now, it's an exhibit to aid our investigation. And once investigation is concluded, the rightful owner, of course, would take back his property.
Meanwhile, investigations continue into how the syndicate sourced the underground tank and the full chain of conspirators.
The Commissioner of Police, Lagos State Command, CP Olorundare Jimo, upon hearing of this case, gave direct instructions that all of the other suspects should be rounded up, and the investigation should be swiftly concluded.
The arrest of the suspect and recovery of the stolen product are expected to bring relief to residents and businesses in the area. In Lagos, for News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa has inaugurated Student Against Violent Extremism during the multi-sector conference in Maiduguri, designed to engage young scholars in the fight against extremist ideologies circulating in the Northeast. Speaking to multiple stakeholders, from students, the military and civil society organizations, as well as community leaders, General Musa emphasized that youth-led initiatives are essential in reshaping community narratives as well as ensuring peace. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
The echoes of the conflict in Nigeria's northeast is gradually fading away, with communities being resettled to pick up the pieces of their lives. A newly formed group, Student Against Violent Extremism, an initiative that seeks to persuade individuals against terrorism and radicalization, here being inaugurated by Nigeria's Chief of Defense.
The non-kinetic effort does a lot, and youths play a major role in that non-kinetic effort. And that's why we have this event today, to be able to bring out the youth. And you can see the groups that have been formed. They will go around because they are also meeting together with their fellow youths and be able to talk to them on the issue of all of them not agreeing anybody to radicalize them, for them to support the security forces, for them to do things right so that Nigeria can be better.
The only thing I want the Nigerian society to know is that terrorism is like cancer. It regenerates. So we must get to the roots and cut it off. before it will end.
This initiative and also brought the civil societies and also the youth, Borno Youth Parliaments on board so that we can work hand in hand together to see that at least we have play critical roles also to not to allow just the federal and the state governments to just do it alone.
Focused on building resilience against violent extremism through youth engagement, stakeholders called on Nigerian youth to embrace peace building through education.
As for us from the Youth Assembly of Nigeria, we are engaging the community leaders and traditional leaders in the community to see that we sensitize the young people in peace bringing in our communities.
The youths are leaders of the tomorrow. They are the ones to shape the community in the near future. So imbibing this kind of character in them now, it will going to actually help in having a robust and one community in the society.
I must say that this is a very good initiative, and from our side, we will take this up, we'll take it very serious, and we will wish that the Chief of Defense Staff, alongside with some of the security advisors from Northeast region, will intensify and domesticate this across all the region.
The persuasive means of encouraging the surrender of terrorists has led to over 300,000 voluntarily surrendering. What remains now is for the government to ensure extremism of any form is minimized to its lowest ebb. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And thanks to Umaru Kirawa for that report. That's all we can take for this hour. It's time for us to bring you back Breakfast Extra. I am Judith at TV. Stay with us.
Welcome back into the thick of things for Breakfast Extra. Mazino Peel and Judith at TV here for you. Now, it's being described as one of the most ambitious overhauls of Nigeria's tax systems in years. President Bola Tinubu has signed a series of tax reform bills into law targeted at improving fiscal transparency, boosting government revenues, and reducing duplication among tax agencies. Now, under the new laws, key rates like VAT remain at 7.5% and company income tax stays at 30%, but the real change lies in how the system is structured, streamlining tax collections and enforcing compliance while also attempting to ease the burden for small businesses and digital platforms.
And it comes at a time when Nigeria is grappling with sluggish growth, high inflation, and widespread public distrust in the government's ability to manage funds. So, what do these reforms really mean for Nigerians and for the economy at large? Well, joining us now is Timi Ikidi. He is a respected economist and fiscal policy expert, and he helps us to sort of make sense of it all. Mr. Timi, it's good to have you join us today, and a very good morning to you. Happy Sunday.
Well, thank you. Good morning to you guys in the studio for doing an amazing work, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's begin with the big picture, shall we? What's the overall goal of these tax reforms? And do you think that they are the right move for Nigeria, especially at this time?
Okay, well, basically, the economy is, experiencing, one of the toughest times in our history as a country. You see inflation is double digits, it's not all that. Not experienced that. You see unemployment and all that. The value of the currency is abysmally low. So basically, economic performance is quite
Timi,
abysmal. So
Timi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Much better. There we go. At first we couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, much better now. Much better now.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, thank you. So I agree. It is obvious that all of us, including me seated here, we are actually facing tough economic times, no doubt about that. But irrespective of that, we need to make progress, we need to move, and I think that is why the Tax Reform Act has been designed, and hopefully the potential benefits are expected to be enjoyed by Nigeria. But we also need to understand something, that for every reform or every policy, people need to understand that there's a time for, there's a lag period. So the policy has been enacted. You don't expect the benefits to just, it's not a magic wand. So the benefits are not expected to just start trickling in. So there's a lag period, and there are different time horizons for those benefits to start hitting the different target zones of the different sectors of the economy. Basically, I know Nigerians are actually asking questions, especially the low and medium income group. They was hit in the current economic situation. So they will be asking, like, what's in for us? Because the fact is, the economy is not friendly for them, and so they will be asking what is in for them. So quickly, there's an aspect of this bill that caught my attention, and I want to commend the team that designed the policy for their ingenuity, and that has to do with formalizing the micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. So basically, what that means is this bill, this act, actually makes a provision for micro, small, medium scale enterprises to be exempted from certain tax categories. For instance, companies or businesses with a turnover of not more than 800 million naira and asset value of about 250 million naira are expected not to pay company income tax, the capital gains tax, as well as the newly introduced 4% development levy. So the expectation is that this would encourage the growth of micro, small, and medium scale enterprises, which are actually the engine of growth for every economy. If you look at globally, you go to Asia, basically these are the segment of the economy that actually drives growth. So if more, there's potentially this happens, what it means is that it will create more employment, and what that means is that it will create more incomes for the poor and the low income groups. So in principle, I think this idea is very germane. So the policy is quite inclusive. But my fear would be, I want to believe it will be implemented, to the latter and effectively. If done, obviously we're going to have, some challenges here and there. But if this aspect is properly well managed and there's a boom in terms of the growth of this industry, then we expect that there will be increase in income, there will be increase in, a lot of people will be taken out of the poverty gap, because once you generate more employment, what happens to your GDP? Your GDP improves. What happens to government revenues? Government revenues also improves. What happens to livelihoods? People, income levels will increase. At some
Dr. Tini,
point,
let's talk about that.
Discover that even the inflationary pressure will tend to even out.
Let's talk about that now, Dr. Tini, regarding...
That is one aspect.
Okay, so I wanted to pick on something, jump on something that you have just talked about regarding livelihoods and the lives of Nigerians. Let's talk about where it actually gets to them, where it meets people out there on the streets trying to edge a living. VAT. Now, under this new reform, we shouldn't see much VAT again on basic food items. In fact, not at all. Basic food items, baby products, school fees, electricity, hospital bills, groceries from local supermarkets should have no VAT. School fees, we wouldn't see any of that. But how immediate will this take effect, and what impact would it have on the lives of Nigerians? Because for people who earn about 30,000 naira and who cut their coat according to their size, they really don't identify with these taxes that they pay. So is that enough for the common man to say that the president has done something that actually tangibly affects my pocket?
Okay, thank you. So that has been the concern for the average person. They want to see immediate benefits. But the reality is that, like I mentioned earlier, there's always a time lag between when a policy is enacted and implemented, and when that the benefit tends to trickle into the economy. So basically, with respect to the question you asked, we should be looking at the medium term. But mind you, I would want to advise, is my recommendation, that the additional revenues that would actually come from this process should be effectively and efficiently invested in critical infrastructure in the economy. So because obviously the low and medium income groups will be worse hit if there's any inflationary pressures beyond what we're actually facing now. So government should put in place like buffers. For instance, the average man or the average person on the street would want to commute from point A to point B. If for instance, he can't even do that currently, and there's an additional spike in that rate, how do you compensate him? How do you tell him what you're doing is for his own benefit? So government has a duty to protect, low-income group as a result of this policy enactment. The policy in itself, I would say that it is germane. I think I would commend the government of the day, but implementation should be closely watched. I think if the right investment, especially in the right infrastructure, like I mentioned, transportation, electricity, other essentials, are actually, managed properly, then the initial impact on the low-income groups would be minimal. So by the time you get to the medium term, obviously, and the long term, I think everybody would see and that would see the intention or the intent of this very bold step by the federal government. So that is my view to that. However, we should keep in mind that, because for me, policies are meant to alleviate this group of
Doctor,
citizens.
Dr. Timi, I mean,
yeah.
you just talked about policies being able to alleviate the pains and the hardship when it comes to the average Nigerian. And critics have argued that the reforms do lead to address overtaxation at the subnational level. Now, I want to make this clear, right? Everyone is paying tax some way, one form or the other. Like you rightfully put, transparency is one of the biggest issues that we have. Do we have an overtaxation problem, or is just, the reforms that we're not seeing? Because the Kurupe driver, the Keke driver, Keke Napep driver, or the Danfo driver, all of the public transportation, they pay some taxation, whether to their local government council, but where the remittitions of this, where is it going to? So the reforms that we're seeing, does it do anything to address overtaxation, or is it a case of transparency and accountability?
Okay, so I thank you for that question. So I think it does both, or it potentially would do both. Now, the first one is, if you recall, there are issues Nigerian businesses have been grappling with. Okay, in different states, what are the different taxes I have to pay? There's a lot of ambiguities around, taxes, no clarity. So it's difficult for businesses within and without to want to come into the Nigerian economy to invest, because there's a plethora of different taxes you're paying. You can't even sit down and ascertain the profitability of your venture. So this bill intends to address that and provide some level of transparency and clarity with respect to that. And this signals basically, it incentivizes FDI inflows into the economy. So that is one aspect. So it addresses the issue of multiple taxation, and a plethora of other different taxes. In terms of I think you mentioned please can you help me with that again? I think I've missed the second point. So it addresses accountability and transparency.
Right.
Yeah.
But also the overtaxation at the local council. At the local council level.
Yes, so overtaxation. Oh, okay, fine. So for overtaxation, I want to believe, yes, it addresses it. Now, the reason is, I will take an example in the city in which I live. So you have, certain level of taxes enforced by the state, and you discover that there's a duplicity of that same level of taxes enforced by the local councils. So for the Gorope on the road or the bus driver on the road, I mean, that's a pain point that needs to be addressed. So this policy, that's why I keep going back to effective implementation. So if the policy is effectively, and efficiently implemented, what that means is that all those layers of multiple, overtaxation will go away, especially for these vulnerable groups. What it means is that they will be potentially exempted from these taxes.
All right.
So what that means is that they have more disposable income,
right?
To better their lives.
Yeah, because when we see the Agberos, again, we're not supposed to see the street urchins or those in uniforms who are supposedly Agberos collecting tax, and you're saying they're paying to local government chairman or local council. At the end of the day, where does that money go to? I think there was a report done by SBM Intelligence that was saying that the money that they accrue on just taxing the public transportation road users alone or drivers goes as high as billions of naira each year. And that's just wild when you think about where that money is going to. But away from that, let's talk about, how they are trying to widen the tax bracket by including digital business more squarely into the tax net. I beg your pardon, that's widening the tax net. Do you think that in any way it's going to stifle digital spur innovation or sort of stifle it as well? Because how is that going to work when you're trying to bring in more digital businesses under the tax net?
Okay, so the expected benefits from that is, it is two ways. Number one, there's a potential, issue around transfer pricing. So what I mean by that is, for the development levy, the 4% development levy, for, like you mentioned, regulated sectors like the telecoms, for instance. Obviously, the firm or the business or the company, the telecoms company, would obviously pass that across to the final consumer. So in the short term, we're expected to have some some, inflationary pressure around that. Now, the government intervention, it's very key to show up investment in, tech-related, investment. They can, I'm sure they have tax reliefs for them, especially for the ones that falls into the already mentioned criteria for micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, which is obviously the assets, companies with assets valued at 250 million naira, as well as the turnover, annual turnover of about 200 million naira. So the policy has actually created some level of buffer. I think the people that designed, or the brains behind the policy, they've envisaged all this scenario, and I think it is a good one. It shouldn't stifle businesses, especially small and medium-scale businesses. Rather, it should encourage them to grow. Once you hit that threshold and you are above the threshold, obviously you're no longer considered, in the eyes of this reform, you're no longer considered as a micro, small, and medium-scale
I see. Makes perfect sense.
It's very interesting, this new tax reforms, the fact that it focuses on where the money is coming in lately, looking at the digital platforms and the amount of money that people who are engaged in these platforms are raking in. But to tag on to do this question, is it going to stifle this economy, this sector? That's a very critical thing to look at, because it's mostly run by the youth. And if the youth think or feel that they are coming under some pressures, they might react. So how exactly does this, is this cushioned when it comes to the digital innovative society or sector?
Okay, thank you. If you recall, you mentioned in your opening remarks that, the issue around the VAT, 7.5% VAT, and the reliefs around small and medium scale enterprises, which is actually the engine room of growth, driven by actually the youths. Because if you look at the trend over the years, basically you have youths driving, the digital transformation of the economy. So this bill has been able to create incentives in terms of impute VAT. So for instance, if you're creating a service and you paid impute VAT, right? You're expected to recover that impute VAT. It doesn't eventually go into your cost. Right? So that counts for an incentive. These businesses are exempted. So the Nigerian youth shouldn't, be wary that this tax reform is going to drive them out of business. I think they should take advantage of it and run with it, because it is here for them. It's here to expand ingenuity and creativity of the youth.
Well, it's in the mechanism of retrieving these monies that are supposed not to be taxed. From what we've experienced, business owners, especially here in Lagos. So we're hoping that this policy also puts in the mechanism to help business owners, small business owners in the digital sector, retrieve these monies back after they spent them in production cost. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Timikidi, for being with us this morning to discuss taxes, which is not exactly the most exciting topic, but I guess it shapes everything in Nigeria, so it is absolutely important. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I hope I was able to add value to
absolutely.
Indeed you have.
Oh, you have. Thank you so much once again. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we continue our discussions here on Breakfast Extra. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's talk reform or ruin. You will tell us what happens when a place meant to rehabilitate troubled youth becomes the very source of their trauma. This week on Big Report, we take you to Katsina State, where a reformatory center established to offer hope and healing, is now under scrutiny for horrific and horrifying abuse, from chained teenagers to gruesome testimonies from survivors and families. It paints a chilling picture of neglect and systemic brutality. Founded in 2007 by the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua during his time as governor, the Katsina Reformatory Center was meant to fight drug addiction and youth crime through vocational training and education. But as News Central's Rukayat Jabiya discovered, the reality behind its gates is anything but rehabilitative. Here's our exclusive investigation. Take a look.
When words are sent to Reformatory Center, their families expect a reformed child with prospects. But what happens when a center established to rehabilitate troubled youth becomes a den of horror and torture? The scars from severe abuse and neglect obtained from an institution meant to be a place of hope now reveals a darker reality. Katsina Reformatory Center was founded by then Governor Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, aiming to combat drug addiction through vocational training and education. But recent testimonies suggest a different horrifying stories.
Gaskiya suna cikin mawuyacin hali inda abincin da suke samu ma baya wadatar da su. Da safe ana ba su kunu wanda ake yi da gero wanda dukan shi bai kai quantity in shi bai wuce gwangwanin pig ta ruwa bai wuce wannan shine ake ba manya da yara daga cikin su.
Usman Musa was brought into the center by his relatives, hopeful that he will learn a craft and turn his life around. Instead, he says he faced unimaginable cruelty.
Usman mun kai shi ne a rehabilitation center akan wani issue ba wani abu bane ba, makarantar da mun da muka bincike akan makarantar da muka kai shi an faɗa mana cewa suna ba da ilimi, suna koyar sana'a, suna tarbiyyantar da yara. Za a aji yaro babu wani abokai na banza wanda zai sanya ya rika shaye-shaye, dalilin shaye-shaye ma ne aka kai shi. So duk suka yi mana wannan bayanan muka ji daɗi, muka samu natsuwa, har suna mana ikirarin cewa wani lokacin da za a zo ɗaukar shi za mu ji daɗi.
Usman was allegedly tied, beaten and left to suffer for days. His hands become swollen, infected and eventually gangrenous. It was only when a concerned visitor told Usman's relatives of his predicament that Usman was taken from the center.
Aka shiga da ni kafin a shiga da ni aka tsaya da ni aka sa mini mari a kafa. Bacin an sa min mari a kafa har zan shiga daki sai aka ce in jira. Aka ce in kwanta, aka yi min bulala ta welcome to guda 40. Shi principal din, shi Inusa, shi ma akwai wacce yake yi guda 30. Aka yi min bulala ban san iyaka ba, sannan aka juya hannuna. Da aka ɗaure shi daban, sannan aka haɗa da fili aka ɗaure. Ba a yi minti 5 ba na fara jin wani bala'i. Ina haɗa su da Allah su kwance ni don Allah ni su yi man bulala 1000. A nan nake yi tsari, a nan nake komi ba mai taɓa ni. Haka kowa ya tafi ya bar ni ya guje ni saboda wari nake yi. Ba mai tayi na ce su kira ni gidanmu a zuwa ta da ni. Ne dai su ce sun kira, ne ta haɗa su da Allah. Dai su ce sun kira, da ba Allah ya sa wannan wanda ya zo ya ga halin da nake ciki ba ya fiɗi shi ma wannan hannun nan san yake shi
ya fito daga nan. So suna killace shi ne sakamakon ba su son a ga irin cikin condition inda yake hannuwan shi suna wari sun lalace. Sai na gan shi cikin wannan condition din, na ce mashi bawan Allah me ke faruwa, sai yake faɗa mana cewa an ɗaure shi ne. Na ce to insha Allah na ma alƙawari idan na fita zan je zan sanar da magabatanka, da zan sanar da iyayenka halin da kake ciki, da a yanayi idan kika ga halin da yake ciki gaskiya idan ya ƙara kaman kwana 2 ma ko 3 zai iya rasa ran shi.
His family was unaware of the extent of his injuries. They kept coming to visit him in the center but were said to be denied access by the principal.
A lokacin boy shekaran sallah, tunda mun kai shi ne on 31st May. Wani shekaran sallah na je na kai mai abinci da nama. The following day ta sallah na je su ma sauran yan uwana sun je sun nemi su gan shi ma ba a ba su ganin shi ba. After sun je the following day ni ma na ƙara komawa.
Usman's hand was so severely damaged that it had to be amputated, a permanent reminder of the brutality inflicted upon him. Now, bedridden, scarred physically and psychologically, Usman's story and condition begs for deeper insight.
Wani lokaci sai an kamo ni an ɗaure ni jikin taga wani ɗaki ko wani wuri dai haka he a ɗaure ni a ci gaba da bani azaba suna zuba min ruwa in na ji wahala ina cewa a bani ruwa in sha to idan aka kawo ruwan ba bani ake ina sha ba he dai wani zai iya yin hitsari ya ce dole ma he na sha hitsarin.
I went to investigate these allegations. What I found was shocking. A dilapidated facility, chained students, and a culture of violence that cannot be justified. I reached out to the authorities for answers, and despite efforts to get responses, the officials refused to cooperate openly.
I can't answer you this question because it's not to my...
When I finally spoke with the principal, he claimed that Usman was brought in due to drug abuse, theft, and an attempt to kill his mother.
Maganganu marasa daɗi yana ɓata mai suna kuma alhalin ba haka bane ba har yana magana cewa yana ikirarin ko zai kashe uwarshi tunda nake da shi kanina ne ban taba ji ya ce zai kashe mahaifiyar shi ba.
He insisted Usman injured himself trying to escape, but when asked if he took Usman to a hospital, he couldn't produce the hospital card, the doctor's name, or the file number. He said he couldn't answer any more questions, even though he still maintains that there is nothing to hide.
Usman Musa attempted to escape with leg iron through our sealer. On that very particular day, he attempted to escape with that leg iron through our sealer, but he stepped on that bogler where he failed to escape and fall down. He injured, he wounded his hands. I think there is dressing and other antibiotics. Yes, I can't answer you this question.
Despite denials, witnesses and family members confirmed brutal abuse.
Saboda kumbura ma hannuwan suke bai komi ke su bai iya sai dai tantankwashe haka da nan ugu ne da nan duk ugu ne da nan wajen bayan shi wurin ugun ne shi ma da kanshi.
A gabana ina cikin office in ake mashi wannan duka.
The hospital reports confirmed the amputation was due to negligence. When I asked Usman, he states he was not taken to any hospital. This discrepancy raises serious questions about the official account.
Drip na ruwa, irin wanda ake ƙarin ruwan nan, sai suka ta tsaya min a hannu, suka samun cincin bali. Aka ɗauke ni aka ce a tai da ni ɗaki, suka bin wani magani guda ɗaya da vitamin C. To nan a haka kullum suna min wannan abin. Kullum suna min ba in ce masu ku taimaka ku kira gidanmu don Allah. Ko asibiti a kai suka ce ai su ma suna magani.
While this investigation is ongoing, the facts remain that this young man is now without arrest.
Tun daga ranar da abin ya faru, kwana 20 da wani abu, ban ƙara bacci ba. Ko da rana, idan na ɗan rintsa aka ɗan buɗe ƙofa, na tashi. Dan Allah, abin da suka yi min a hukunta su. Sannan ina da buri a rayuwata, kala da kala. Sosai ina da buri, amma yanzu sanadiyar rashin hannun nan ba ni da wani abin da zan iya wanda nake da burin cewa zan iya yi da hannu biyu.
I called the special advisor to the governor on drugs and narcotics multiple times. Despite the investigation being open, he refused to pick up. The authorities' refusal to answer questions and provide transparency only deepened the suspicion. If this was truly an investigation, why deny question? Justice for Usman and other victims is overdue. In Katsina, for News Central, Rukayya Jibiya.
Well, that was a very difficult but important watch for us to get into. The images and the testimony and even the silence itself is not only shocking but also harrowing. And it just begs to ask a question about human condition and lives in what is supposed to be a rehabilitation center or a reformative center. And so to do this and to discuss this further, we're joined by 3 guests. But first, the reporter who filed in this report, and that is News Central's Rukayya Jibiya. Rukayya, thank you so much for joining us.
Also thank you for having me.
Joining us virtually is Barrister Lawal Lawal, if we have him on there as well. And lastly, we have a third guest, Rukaya. Who could that be?
Bashir Bala.
Bashir Bala. There we go.
He's a human rights activist.
And he also joins us. Bashir, many thanks for doing this with us, gentlemen. We appreciate you for coming on. This is a harrowing story.
Yeah, indeed.
But first of all, what led you to this story? Let's start there.
Okay. I saw the story on social media. And I don't know. I just want to tell the story. I want to uncover the truth. If at all that center is guilty, I want to uncover that story.
Your findings is this only an isolated case, or is this a repeated case that we're seeing in this center?
I think this is a repeated case. As you can see from my report, there is another victim. And then the victims, they kept coming forward, you know, even yesterday before this report is ready. They kept coming forward. But most of them, I can see that they are scared. You will see that I blur the face of the second victim because he was scared and his mom was also scared, you know. But things are happening in that center. You know, when I went to visit the principal, I asked him whether I can go into the dormitory to see their living condition, and which he allowed me to. So, as I just entered the dormitory, I can see people chained, like with iron, with chain cuffed to their legs. You mean they are not animals? And you said you're going to reform them, you're going to rehabilitate them, and you have chain, like where are they going to? You know, and there was this, I was asking them, and there was this boy. I still see him in my sleep. He was trying to tell me that they tied us, they beat us, and the vice principal had that boy.
Oh, so
immediately I left the gate of the dormitory, I can hear him beating that boy.
Oh, dear. Okay, I can't imagine what you have been through.
Oh, of course.
I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation. Yeah. But I asked a simple question just before we came on the air, and I'm going to repeat that question, but not without noting everything that that report actually showed us. The inhumanity of it all, it would seem, the trauma that individuals have gone through in this institution that was supposed to be for rehabilitation, but now is the very torture house, you know, that people should actually run away from when they say, if you do drugs, we will take you there. It's not rehabilitating anything at all.
Yeah.
But now you're in Lagos. These are matters that are happening in Katsina, but you're in Lagos. Could you tell us that story again, why you are in Lagos?
Okay. I have to be in Lagos to do the story. You know, Katsina is not an easy place to tell a story because nobody wants you to talk over there. I mean, things keep happening, but you just can't say anything. Even, I think our journalists in Katsina, just a few of them, maybe
the brave ones.
Yes, the brave ones. They are the ones that can tell the story of what is happening. But you can't just talk. You need to keep quiet in Katsina. If you want to live a peaceful life, then you better keep quiet. But I am so invested in this story because I saw the living condition of those poor children. Because there are children there. I saw a child of, let's say, 11, 12 years in that center. So I need to tell that story. And I know that in Lagos, I will have a clear mind. And then, at least I know that in Lagos I can be safe.
Right.
Yeah, so that is why I'm in Lagos.
All right, let's come to the lawyer. There are two sides to this, but I want to start with the lawyer. Barrister Lawal, if you're with us, if this center is found culpable for these acts that we're seeing with this teenagers and preteens who are supposed to be there for reformation and rehabilitation, what are the legal charges they will face? And also for the victims as well, what kind of legal address or legal redress can they take up for this rehabilitation center?
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, loud and clear, Barrister.
Okay.
Barrister, while I'm talking to you, I'm asking about the legal. Can you hear me? Barrister, can you hear me? All right, as we wait for Barrister, let me. All right, let me come to my second guest here. Is this a clear case of human rights violation? And where is the intersection between, human rights violation, legal breaking the law, and also the institution or the MDA or the agency or department, ministry that is supposed to be overseeing this facility to make sure that issues and gruesome and terrifying incidents like this never ever see the light of day?
Mr. Bashir.
Mr. Bashir.
He's set up by Kaduna State law.
All right, we seem to be having a mix here. Barrister Lawal, just give us a second. We want to start with Bashir. Just give us a second. Bashir, please go ahead with the question that I asked earlier.
Okay, please, can you come again, as I think you have network issues here.
All right, I was asking about the human conditions, what we're seeing, footages of chained children, dilapidated conditions to the point of amputation at this point, chained. And this is clearly a clear violation of human rights, rights of these children and preteens. And so who are the ministries or department or agencies who are supposed to be in charge of overseeing this facility to let it go allegedly to this point where limbs are being lost and cut off?
Thank you very much for having me. And we must hold the owners, the staff and the authorities who are allowed to this continue. We must hold them accountable, and wire the government agencies. The government agencies, this SA on narcotics, he must be investigated. And MDLEA as well has a role to play, and then Ministry of Youth and Sport Development has a role to play, and they must hold accountable. And then the state government in general, they must hold accountable, and they must be investigated. And then they are the agencies that has the responsibility to take care of any child in Kaduna State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bashir. Barrister Lawal, we're hoping that you can hear us now. We were asking regarding redress. What can these victims do when it comes to getting perhaps their day in court?
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Well, we can hear you now, but we'll fall back to technical, and hopefully they can sort the issue with your connection out. But let's come back to the studio here and speak with Rukayat, if you don't mind. Rukayat, thank you very much. Now, the details were very clear inside of the report, but what was missing? What could you not show? You talked about the fact that some of the people that you spoke to didn't want to be seen. What were they scared of exactly?
The victim, my main victim, Usman Bujawa, when his relatives came forward and exposed this on social media, what happened was the principal, he did a press release, like a press conference with journalists, and he defamed that boy's character. I myself, the principal told me that the boy was into drugs, he was stealing, and he attempted to kill his mother. And that poor boy is still crying when he remembered that. He kept telling me, and he kept telling his brothers that I never said I would kill my mother.
Is the police or any other authority involved? Because if there are those claims, then was it reported to any authority like the police?
Yes. His lawyer, Barrister M.M. Lawan, here with us, he wrote a petition to the Commissioner of Police. But I was surprised to ask him yesterday, and he said the case was still not assigned to any person.
Okay, just pause. Barrister Lawan, if you can hear us, please do tell us exactly why that just happened, why that had happened regarding the Commissioner of Police.
Now, basically, as the victim and his family engaged our service, we quickly acted in two folds. One, we wrote a petition to the Commissioner of Police narrating the tragedy, all that happened to him. And then we went further to annex glaring pictures that buttressed our petition. And then till date, we are yet to be called. The petition is yet to be assigned after several follow-ups. And it actually bothers us that till date, the petition is yet to be assigned and it's yet to be looked into, which clearly shows that the state is actually having an interest in the matter.
What interest could this be regarding the complicity of the authorities here, if you don't mind going further?
Now you see, basically when this kind of tragedy happens, the first thing a good authority is supposed to do is to create a committee which would make a deeper investigation, which the governor did. And then when they did that, we were expecting that the principal should set aside. Immediately, it should set aside, and then a proper investigation will be conducted. However, the committee did not in any way ask the principal to relinquish his position. He continued as the principal. As I speak to you, he's still the principal, and nothing has been done to him. So that clearly shows that the states have an interest in supporting its member, who happens to be the principal, because he works for the state.
Let's come to Mr. Bashir. Mr. Bashir, these facilities obviously should have some kind of professional modus operandi, way of operating. But we see here that there are certain cultural, regional influences that are coming into the way they actually operate. Why is this?
Sometimes it's not the first time this torturing issue happened in Kaduna State. It was happened, I think, maybe last year in Daura, some areas around Daura zone. It was happened before, but I don't know why a lot of people are being into this critical offense, which is initially they have their own ways to operate, they have their own rules and regulations, they have their own constitutions, let's say a code of conduct. They have their own, but they are violating the code of conduct. But I don't know the reason why they are violating the code of conduct of the organization or of the rehab center. Initially, rehab center is meant for rehabilitation, and now is meant for torturing and traumatizing. You see, young people in Kaduna State, as we all know this. As a country, we must ask ourselves, how many centers are we doing secretly? Do we have secretly in Kaduna, or maybe in Nigeria as well? If you don't act now, we are saying this is okay, and it is not okay. So, we must actually, an immediate shutdown of any accusing reform center must be done. A government investigation and legal action against these people behind this, and also support service for affected children. This child that has been affected, he must be taken care of by the government.
So
and
Mr.
this
Bashir,
principle must be sacked, and he must take place as Barrister mentioned.
Now, Mr. Bashir, based on what you've just said, let's note that this is a formal institution that was actually put in place by a former president. So it must have some overview by an agency. What agency is this?
You see, an overview of this agency, I think this rehabilitation system must be under Ministry of Youth and Sport Development.
All right. Let's come back into the studio. I have to ask you, one of the things I've been picking out of this is that this is not the first time. This is not the first time. You said you found the story, you stumbled on it on social media.
Yes.
And so why are parents still bringing their children back there?
Exactly.
Because this has been open since 2003.
Yes.
And that means for it to have gotten to this level, it must have been happening for the last 22 years.
Thank you for this question. It will surprise you that on that day I went to the rehabilitative center. After this story happened, and it was all over social media up to now in Katsina. And I met a woman met me there. And she wants to bring her child.
Still?
Yes. After seeing the videos on social media, and she still like make a reference. Okay, I saw something on social media, but I'm hoping that is not true. Please, I want to bring my child.
Why do they bring their children? What is the reason for them bringing? When you say rehabilitation or reforms, what's going on? Are they becoming addicted to drug use?
Yeah,
is it drug use? Is it
what is the level of drug use?
Because when you look at the age, they are pre-teen and they're teenagers. So most likely there's adolescency that's beginning to kick in. So they're stubborn, or they all of a sudden behaving like, oh, I'm a man now, I can do whatever.
Of course, then that can make parents to take their child to reform centers in Katsina. By merely misbehaving as a teenager, he can be taken to a reform center. Because listen to the report. What his brother was saying, what Usman's brother was saying was that they noticed he started doing drugs. One, and then two, he was not praying on time. And number three is he was moving with bad friends. And they want to stop him.
What's the definition of bad friends? Because I've got bad colleagues. I mean...
Okay. I hope it's not my sin. Okay. So, he said that he was moving with bad friends. And they don't want that influence. So they took him there so that he will be isolated for a while. And then he will learn a skill.
Why not send it to a relative?
Of course. They can do that. Or maybe send him to see a therapist.
Right.
Let him go and see a therapist, because I must commend the effort of the NDLEA. They have a rehabilitation center in their building. And I think I am a regular customer there. Because I go to that center, because I was suspecting that something fishy was going on. I go to that center like morning, afternoon, night. I kept going, and they kept answering my questions. Immediately you enter the center, you will just see a shelf, and then there's an office of a counselor. I asked them, how many times do your, what will I call them?
Your patients.
Okay, your patients, yes. How many times do your patient maybe visit their counselor? They said, like, each patient has a counselor, you know, and there are some that visit the counselor maybe 4 times in a week, every day, or 3 times in a week, depending on the severity of the issue. And that is what a rehabilitation center is.
So why are they not going to the NDLEA then?
I don't know.
So is this a culture thing? Is this a religion? Is there a religion part of it? Or is this an education problem?
I can't call this a religion or an education problem. Why? Because this center is not even maybe something like those of Malaniga, you know, the Islamic clerics. This is a reform center owned by the government.
The principal,
by the government.
The principal, what is his qualification? Sorry, just what's his qualification?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Just like
I didn't ask because he don't like the questions.
No,
if I ask him, he'll say, I can't answer that question. I
want to come to Barrister Lawan. Barrister Lawan, what are the implications for the principal, the institution, noting that the institution is actually government-owned? And I mean legally now.
Yeah. Now, the legal implication with respect to the tragedy inflicted on the young man are two. One, the young man has the right to sue the school, the reformatory center, and then the government of Kaduna State also, because the reformatory center is an agent of the government of the Kaduna State. He can sue them for in a civil suit and then claim damages for his amputated wrist. And then that we have we put into action by writing a letter of demand to the state government, and then we are even currently working on the processes to file a civil suit against the state government and against the school and even against the principal himself. And then on the other hand of it, the criminal aspect is that the principal would be investigated along with the SA on narcotics, because the SA on narcotics oversees the school. And then both of them will be investigated, and then if found wanting, either in negligence or deliberate action, they will be charged before a competent magistrate or even before a competent high court. And then punishment would be meted in accordance with the law. Now, basically we've done the two aspects, and I've said we've written a letter of demand to the state government, demanding them to pay the young man, that's our client Usman, the sum of 200 million naira, and then to equally make us an investigation, and then to remove the principal, and then make him face the wrath of the law for his actions and inactions. These are basically the legal implications. And then lastly, we can the court in its own wisdom, based on application by the Council of Usman, can seal the school. The court has the power to seal the school. Even the police commissioner of police can obtain an order to seal the school pending investigation. These are the actions we are expected to have seen for the past 10 days, but nothing is happening. So basically, these are the legal implications of the action of the school and the principal himself.
All right. Mr. Bashir Bala, to you now. Could you give us an idea of how many of these institutions actually exist in Katsina State? What the present state of drug abuse is in Katsina State as well? Mr. Bashir. I think you're muted, if you can unmute.
Okay, yes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I know 2 rehabilitation centers, this kind of centers in Katsina, which is, Rekaya already mentioned these centers, like Malaniga is also a rehabilitation center. And then also this rehabilitation center that we are talking about now, that is the only 2 I know. And then last year, as I mentioned, there was a other rehabilitation center around Daura zone, I don't know whether if it is inside Daura town or some other neighborhood local government in Daura. So I can say we have 3 now in Katsina, and I know there is a secret rehabilitation center which they are operating maybe privately. They are not attached to government. So I think investigation can reveal how many rehabilitation centers we have in Katsina.
Now, regarding the state of drug abuse in these areas, what is it like? Why?
Yes. Regarding the actually is very rampant. Actually, maybe sometimes around 65 to 75% of our youth now they are engaging into drug abuse.
It's very sad.
Gentlemen, I want to say thank you. Just very quickly as a wrap up, Rukaya, I must say well done so far. This must be very harrowing for you,
and
just speaking to those victims as well. But I have to ask you, what's the next step?
I don't know. Just like the barrister said, the only thing I know is I will continue following the story until the state government, the commissioner of police, more especially the commissioner of police, do something. And I'm hoping that Usman and other victims will get justice.
Get justice indeed. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, we'll switch to politics, and this time it's the APC. Stay with us. Mazino is not on where I am. So it's the end of an era, like Mazino says, and at the beginning of a new chapter as well for Nigeria's ruling party, the APC. After months of mounting pressure, political controversy, and internal party tensions, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje has officially stepped down as national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Now, in his place, the APC has named Ali Bukar Daluri, a long-serving party chieftain from Borno State, as the acting national chairman.
Daluri, who previously served as deputy national chairman for North, now steps into a critical leadership role, tasked with stabilizing the party ahead of upcoming off-cycle elections and also resolving factional challenges. So, what does Ganduje's exit mean for the APC? Is Daluri the man to unify the party, and what direction will the APC take from here on? So to help us break this down, we're joined by Bala Ibrahim, whom we had yesterday, but because of time and the network issues, we had to bring him back. And thank you very much, sir, for the grace you've extended to us for coming back on a Sunday morning. Welcome, sir. So, Mr. Ibrahim, let's get started with the first question here.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin with the news everyone's talking about now. Ganduje's resignation is what we're talking about. First off, what does this mean? What does this say? Is this did he resign under pressure, do you think? Is it correct to think that the stories we're hearing about the concerns for his health is what it is? Or are there other deeper meanings that we are not seeing? If you'd be so well to please inform.
Well, thank you very much for having me today, and sorry for the glitch yesterday, and we're looking forward to a better situation today.
Thank you.
First, when you say pressure, pressure can mean so many things: political pressure, health pressure, financial pressure, or whatever. Ganduje resigned on the grounds of health. He said he wants to go and look after his health. For a man of his age, it's only natural that health challenge will be there from time to time. And because he is a Democrat, because the party is a party that does not want to overwork its members, because we are operating under a democracy and democracy is practiced by the book, whenever someone is distressed or he feels unhappy with his situation, the party will not force him to continue in office to the detriment of his health, particularly. And so when Ganduje felt he needs to look after his health, probably the pressure of work is not the type that will be in conformity with the challenges of his health. He needs to step aside for the party to continue with its program, for the government to continue working, and he remains a member of the party and one that can contribute from whatever position he may be.
Okay, so when it comes to the installments of Daluri as the chairman now, under what credit was he put in this position?
Well, Ali Bukar Daluri was the deputy chairman North. He has been in that position since 2023, and the Constitution had provided for the deputy chairman that belongs to the block of the chairman to step into the position of the chairman in the event of a vacancy. If the chairman is incapable or is not on seat, the deputy chairman from the block will automatically step in acting capacity until another chairman is elected. So that is how Ali Bukar Daluri came in, and that's the position he will maintain until there is the new chairman elected.
So that's strictly formality then?
But we do also have to ask about zoning. We know that zoning was one of the issues that was raised at the time when Alhaji Ganduje was appointed the national chairman in 2023. Now with Ali Daluri becoming the national chairman for the time being, pending what you've just said or just cited, will that zoning come into play when that time comes?
Well, zoning comes into play when you are talking of substantive position, but acting is
that's
not,
what I'm saying. So substantive position, that's what I'm asking. When that happens, would that zoning be a major factor? Would it take effect?
Well, certainly. The party does its things by the book. Everything is done according to the provision of the Constitution. The Constitution anticipated a situation like this, where suddenly there may be a vacancy. Now, if that vacancy comes into play, it doesn't mean the party will allow a vacuum. It will not. So someone has to step in for continuity. And the person that steps in will step in only in acting capacity until the right thing is done. So zoning will come into play when the time comes, but it has to be done constitutionally. There are statutory procedures that must be followed before that zoning arrangement is effected. That will involve either the NEC or convention.
It's very interesting that you said that APC plays by the book. Alhaji Ganduje has been trailed by, ethical controversies since his governorship in Kano, and then before taking up the mantle as the acting national chairman for the APC. Does the APC really and truly play by the book and not, look at ethical controversies and viral videos?
One of the ambitions of democracy and politics is to control controversies. Controversy is synonymous with the play of politics. There is no way you can play politics without controversies. That is why you have people in the opposition. That is why you have people as backbenchers. That is where you have people with varying views that agree to disagree. So you cannot dissociate controversy from politics, particularly politics that is practiced in a country like Nigeria, where you have so many tribes, you have so many blocks, you have so many people of different colors and different mindsets. So the APC cannot be an exception. In fact, the APC is trying to be the party that plays or addresses controversies constitutionally and in a manner that is rancor-free.
Now, we understand that there are a bit of tensions, and now that you're here, I'd like for you to address it very quickly regarding the tensions, internal tensions, and somewhat of displeasure in certain camps. This was during just to be clear now, I'm just trying to make sure that I get this correctly so I do not soil my next question. But during a convention, a state convention for the APC, and to be clear, I think this was in Borno State, there were certain parties or certain members of the party who was loyal to Kashim Shettima, the vice president of the nation, and also former governor of Borno State. And when the party, the convention that was going on in Borno at the time, they said that they throw their full weight behind President Bola Tinubu to run for 2027, those certain individuals grew angry and almost caused a bit of a fight of rancor, if you will, at that convention, saying that Kashim Shettima's name was not called. So let's talk about, this small squabbles that we're seeing. Is this appointment of Doluri as acting chairman to quell the concerns of the Borno State camp of the APC?
Well, you see, brouhaha, rancor, confusion, and things like that are not uncommon when it comes to rallies, gatherings, and things of that nature that are political. You have people coming, is an open platform or arena for discussion where people vote beyond their voices. So when people are going to vote with voice, you are likely to have conflicts and disagreements that may even be seen as a fight. It does not necessarily mean that is what is happening. Some people have a way of expressing themselves physically. Some people have a way of expressing themselves verbally, and there are all manner of things that happen. Yes, indeed, there was a rancorous situation in Gombe, and it was a zonal stakeholders meeting. But it was not something that degenerated into a free-for-all fight. No, there were disagreements with regards to the endorsement of the president without mentioning the name of the vice president who belongs to that bloc. And that issue was later addressed, and the matter was settled quietly, peacefully, and without any commotion thereafter.
And you don't think that the appointment of Ali as acting national chairman is to sort of placate the concerns of Borno?
No, the constitution of the APC has been there before the convention in Gombe. So it was not that after that rancorous situation, the APC rushed to put together a constitution in which Ali Bukar Dalori was made the deputy chairman. Ali Bukar Dalori has been the deputy chairman long before that Gombe stakeholders conference. So it's not related to that at all.
Okay. So was there an NEC ratification before Dalori was appointed the national chairman? Because if you speak of process, these are processes that ought to have been followed. Did the APC follow that process?
The APC followed the process fully and completely as directed by the Constitution. The Constitution said in the event of a vacancy, that is, should the chairman be out of office for any reason, someone has to step into the office immediately. And the person to step into that office is the person deputizing for the chairman from the same block with the chairman. There are two deputy chairmen, one from the north, one from the south. In the case of Ganduje, who is from the north, the deputy from the north, who is Ali Bukar Dalori, is the rightful person to step into that position if Ganduje is out of office. Ganduje has resigned from that position, automatically Ali Bukar Dalori is the one to step into that position. You don't need a NEC. You don't need any meeting to pronounce or translate or interpret the provision of the Constitution.
All right. Well, I mean, I must say thank you, but very quickly, for a substantive position, as we head on to that process beginning to start, what are the names, if you can give us a bit of inkling to the names that would be running, that you think within the party will be running for the chairmanship role?
Okay, I am not a lawyer, but let me try my best as a layman to interpret what the Constitution says with regards the position of the chairman. Prior to Abdullahi Umar Ganduje becoming the chairman of the party, the position of the chairman of the party was zoned to the North Central. That is where the former chairman came from. The former chairman, having resigned, he came from Nasarawa State, Senator Abdullahi, the former governor of Nasarawa State. When he resigned, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje took over in acting capacity, subject to ratification by NEC. Now, when NEC sat and discussed, in its wisdom, it felt there is the need to jiggle or play around with the zoning arrangement, such that the position of the chairman was moved from the North Central to the Northwest, where Abdullahi Umar Ganduje comes from. He came from Kano. So they changed the zoning arrangement to take the chairmanship to Northwest and zone the position of the National Legal Advisor to the North Central. So the North Central was compensated with the National Legal Advisor, while the Northwest was given the position of National Chairman. That made Abdullahi Umar Ganduje to stay in that position comfortably.
Okay.
Now, NEC can do what the National Convention can do. NEC, the National Convention delegates some of its powers to the NEC to do for it that which it can do. So now that the position is vacant, the NEC, the next NEC meeting or National Convention can decide in whatever direction, either to leave the position in North Central or take the position to another zone or take it back to the North Central. Whatever it does becomes final. But that is a discretion that is for the NEC or the National Convention. And the National Convention will come towards the end of the year.
Well, we wait to see what that will be like and how it will turn out. Azina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bala Ibrahim. I think you also put an answer to a previous question I had asked regarding the NEC inclusion here, speaking about Ganduje's instance and NEC involvement and then the lack of it here. But you've just explained that it's still within their discretion eventually when that consideration comes to the fore. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your presence here and giving us your Sunday morning once again.
Thank you. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we turn our focus to Kenya on Focus Africa. Stay with us. It's time for us to bring you Focus Africa, and this time our focus is on Kenya. The country is reeling from one of the deadliest waves of anti-government protests in recent years. What started as peaceful demonstrations against controversial tax hikes and unpopular economic policies quickly spiraled into violence, leaving at least 16 people dead and over 400 injured, and thousands of businesses looted or destroyed. In Nairobi and other cities, protesters clashed with police who have been accused of using excessive force, including live ammunition, images of burning streets, tear gas, and blooded citizens have sparked outrage both inside Kenya and across the region. At the heart of the protests is widespread frustration with President William Ruto's administration and what many see as a growing economic burden on ordinary Kenyans.
So how did it get this bad? And what's next for Kenya? Well, joining us for that insight and analysis are Emmanuel To, journalist with Citizen TV Kenya, and Wanase Ahmed, a prominent human rights activist in Kenya. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady, for joining us. Emmanuel, I know it's supposed to be ladies first, but I'm going to start with Emmanuel. Thank you very much for joining. Let's start with what you're seeing on the ground here. What's the current situation in Nairobi and other affected cities with the youth out on the streets and the protests?
Very much for having me on the show, but I wanted to start with just updating you with the latest numbers. You said that there were 16 people who've been killed, but the latest numbers that we have from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is that it is 19. The number has risen to 19, the people who were shot and killed on June 25th, which was on Wednesday this week. And of course, over 500 people injured. The police say 400 people were injured, and out of the 400, 300 are police officers. And it's really raised so many questions, because many people are doubting the numbers from the police, because if you look at the numbers of the people on the streets compared to the police, then the numbers may not really add up, that it is 400 out of 300 out of 400 who are the police who are injured. But of course, it was an agitation, a call to have justice for over 60 people who were killed during last year's Gen Z demonstrations on the 25th of June 2024. But the call to have justice for 60 people who were killed led to the death of another 19. And of course, we're making several steps ahead and so many others backwards. And at the height of it was the shutdown of the media, the live streaming of it. And I hope we'll get into it, that the media was told to not live stream. And the cabinet secretary in charge of Interior and National Administration said that the media was mobilizing these people to come out. But it looked very organic. The media was just playing its role to paint the picture as it is. There's a lot of vandalism. The government, the president, President William Ruto, who is under pressure, says that this was an attempt to overthrow the government and an economic sabotage in a plan to ban the country. So we're still grappling with it. We're still picking up the pieces from about 3 days ago, but we'll be monitoring the situation. Back to you.
Now, Emmanuel, based on that thing you just said, the last comment you made regarding the president's comments about it being a means or an opportunity to overthrow the government, are there any bodies that are backing this movement? Any specific groups of people that it might be said are a group of people specifically trying to overthrow the government?
Well, they are accusing the former deputy president, he's called Rigathi Gachagua, of fueling, funding, and orchestrating the chaos that we witnessed. They're saying that he's the one who is trying to use the shortcut to get to power. But the former deputy president has come out very strongly saying that if the police actually had the intelligence that he's the one who was funding and organizing the goons and those people who burnt property, stole things from the civilians, then the government should have done something, acted on that intelligence and thwart that process or the plans. He just says that this is just the government trying to look for an escape route, trying to look for an opportunity to blame the demonstrations on someone else.
And blame it indeed. Let me come to you, Wanase, and just really talk about, this. The numbers that we're seeing, numbers being injured, the casualty risen to 19. What's the government saying? What are they saying regarding just the assessment, and how is the state handling the whole situation?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the first thing to note is that Kenya has been an active crime scene, which is generally perpetuated by our state. The president has long suspended rule of law. We've had widespread cases of, significant corruption, state-sponsored violence, impunity, lack of accountability, kind of state capture. So Kenya is currently operating in a very, or our government is operating in a very lawless manner. So first, I think I could give you a little bit of context as to what's happened on the ground, after which then I could discuss a bit more about how the government's response and what their actions have been. 1 year ago, as mentioned, there was a mass uprising of, mothers, businesses, youth. The majority of Kenyans were frustrated and angry due to the finance bill, which was going to further tax basic commodities, essential goods, and further increase the challenges of living in Kenya. The majority of Kenyans already live in high states of poverty with the inability to just live dignified lives. So while our politicians blatantly show huge amounts of wealth, 16 million shilling watches, huge homes, vehicles. So there's a huge level of inequality, and public services are basically non-existent. Education, health, infrastructure, even having water in communities for people to have hygienic access to hygiene and basic needs. So that is compromised due to extreme levels of corruption. Last year, we had 1.3 million shillings unaccounted for within our national budget, while accumulating the same in national debt, while withdrawing a lot of essential basic services. So Kenyans have been frustrated due to this blatant corruption. And last year, we had 60 people who were murdered by our state, by the police, and also by the army, as recently shown in Blood Parliament. And 1 year later, there's been not one single arrest. There's no accountability at all, complete impunity. Whereas some of these murderers and their commanders and directors are very well known. So 1 year later, together with the mothers of the families whose children were murdered, siblings, family members, and Kenyans, they went to the police to actually give a notice saying on June 25th, we would like to lay flowers. We'll be taking roses to the places on the streets where our children were murdered in their honor. And we'll also be delivering a petition to the parliament to demand for a public inquest looking into these atrocities because we want accountability. We need justice. The police approved this notice after some back and forth and agreed to provide protection. So families and Kenyans were coming out to the streets to honor the dead, honor the murdered of last year, as well as to demand accountability. And prior to this, we've had a continued increase in extrajudicial killings. We had Albert Ojwang, who was a school teacher, abducted from his home, his parents' home in Homa Bay, and then tortured and murdered by the police, who then said he had hit his head on the wall.
When I say
we have that, and we have.
Right. When I say, because I say we sort of get an overview of the protests and why they're back on the street 1 year after. And of course, I always say this every single time that Africa or different countries in Africa, whether it's West Africa, East Africa, or South Africa, they're just different sides of the same coins. And we've seen that also play out here in Nigeria. But Amnesty International and other organizations have condemned the use of this live bullets on the unarmed protesters. And that's why we see the result, the death that we saw from 1 year. And now again, we're seeing that reprisal back again. But what will accountability look like? Because you said that, on the anniversary of the protests that broke out last year, the families and the mothers of the murdered protesters asked for, investigation, but most importantly, accountability. What would it look like? Very quickly, because we're out of time.
We have clear evidence of goons who were lighting businesses on lighting public property on fire, who were destroying and looting businesses in CBD, who came out to the streets armed and violent, being protected by the police. And there's been no arrest. So we have a lot of state-sponsored violence, which has also integrated sexual violence. Last week, we were threatened with sexual violence against women, saying that they wanted to stab women to create fear. We had gang rapes happening on the streets. We had police watching and looting with goons all of these businesses. We had police watching people light other places on fire, light police stations on fire. We had goons who are armed with knives and machetes being protected by the police. Accountability would look like arrests. It would look like arrests of those goons, their directors, those who are funding them, and them being brought charges for those crimes. Accountability would look like a public inquest looking into all of the murders and deaths from last year, the enforced disappearances, the torture. Accountability would, how our government is responding. Our CS Interior actually gave a shoot to kill order to police, saying that if anyone comes near a police station or harasses police, that the police are being directed by our government to shoot to kill. That is not accountability, that is not rule of law, and further saying that the police will be protected by legal teams. So we have people who are who are missing, who are in morgues, who have been raped, who have had bullets in them, who have been murdered, and our state's response has been a shoot to kill order.
Okay.
And also trumped up charges against human rights defenders, trying to charge human rights defenders that are well known with the crimes, large-scale crimes that the government is actually sponsoring and conducting for the looting and destruction.
Apologies, we've only got a few minutes to go. Wanted to get one question in for Mr. To here. Now, you're a journalist, and the authorities enforced the shutdown of all live streaming coverage of the protest. What message did this send to the rest of Kenyans, especially the youths, the agitated ones who are on the course to try and see things change?
Well, first of all, I think that directive has been really gone against, because many media houses are saying that this is an affront against the freedom of the media, which is articulated in the Constitution of Kenya, Articles 34 and 35, which is the media freedom, and of course access to information. And the youth have actually gone ahead and said that they're going to continue to form another media, which is social media, to put this across. But really, it has been a very unfortunate situation, because the government says that the media is being used to mobilize these protesters to come to the streets. But it's really been a big problem. It is the first time we are seeing this in a very long time, where the government is shutting down live streaming of media and even revoking some of the licenses temporarily before the media houses could get the orders from the court to get their licenses back. And it is a really big clawback on the steps that had been made in terms of the media freedom. And the youth are saying that despite that, the calls for justice will continue. They were calling for justice for over 60 people who were killed. None of them has been, no case has been closed yet. Okay, and of course, we are having another close to 20 who are yet to be accounted for.
All right, now, so Emmanuel, regarding the media being shut down, or at least, well, they have gone against that order. There is social media. There is the youth who use these social medias to be able to get their expressions out there. However, are there a group that actually can discuss with the government? Because in past situations with the Kenyan instances, we've seen that there are no groups that the government can actually talk to as a tangible representative of the people's feelings, the people's reactions. Is there a formula? Is there a group of people that the government is negotiating with regarding these situations in Kenya?
Well, right now the government is really grappling with that, because the new formation, the youthful team that is out there, the Gen Zs, are saying that they are leaderless, they are tribeless, they're not associated or affiliated to any political party, and it is a big headache for the government because they are unable to get to them. But there are some meetings that the president had started last year when the same uprising had started, and the president was going out in town halls, going to universities where we have many youth there. He's also been going to major towns to try and talk to the youth. He has not yet started that, but we hope that they will start that very soon to try and fight off the fire that is coming out of the Gen Z demonstrations. and the youth that are demanding for accountability. But so far, I don't think there's any person they can really talk to, unlike the way it was before, where the opposition leader Raila Odinga used to actually be called on the table to try and discuss the way forward and have some of the national dialogues go on. We've had 2 or 3 or more, which have actually ended up not producing so much, but the call for the dialogue put an end to the demonstrations that we witnessed some years back. But right now, it is really a big problem for the government, because they don't have someone to go to and try to talk to them to stop the demonstrations.
All right. Well, I mean, I must say thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Emmanuel Tour there, who is a journalist, broadcast journalist, and also